to our presenters today. Looks like it's going to be a good panel.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alexander Jones, and I am the boss list of the Epsilon Iota chapter of Omega Psi-Phi Fraternity Incorporated. We thank you for attending our Omega Uplift Series number 18, a salute to women in leadership. As the month of March is recognized as Women's History Month, we, the brothers of the Epsilon Iota chapter, wanted to recognize some phenomenal women leaders who are constantly uplifting our communities and making a difference in so many people's lives. Tonight's program is a salute to them for all that they do. Thank you for tuning in, and as we give these women the opportunity to share their stories and allow us to gain a deeper understanding of who they are. Since the Omega Psi-Phi Fraternity Incorporated was founded on the campus of Howard University 110 years ago, we have been guided by our four cardinal principles of manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. Omega has played and continues to play a vital role in the social and economic growth of our country by enhancing the lives of African Americans. As a fraternity, we operate under 12 nationally mandated programs, which are centralized around issues in our communities. Epsilon Iota chapter has been a staple by providing service to the greater New Haven community for over 32 years. Before we get started, I'd like to share a few reminders. All participants will be muted during this presentation, but we do encourage your active participation by utilizing the chat feature. All questions will be acknowledged at the appropriate time. I would like to take the time and thank our esteemed panelists for agreeing to participate and also acknowledge the work that they have put into the community to make it a better place. The program tonight will run a little differently than our normal program as we present the panel of all women. I would now introduce to some and present to others our Uplift Series moderator, Brother Kevin Walton, who will bring an introduction to our guest moderator for the evening. We hope that you enjoy our program.
Good evening. Thank you, Brother Basilis. And good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So as we round out Women's History Month, we thought it'd be fitting for us to have some dynamic women in the New Haven community that have done phenomenal work. And so my boss list has given me the night off. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest panelist, who is no stranger. Ms. Babs Rawls-Ivy is the editor-in-chief and liaison corporate affairs of the Inner City News and the host of an owner and founder of Love Babs, and she is a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So without further ado, Babs, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. It's my absolute pleasure to be here. Anytime I get to chop it up with sisters, I'm in my best space. Thank you to the brothers of Omega Psi-Phi, the Epsilon Iota chapter, for centering us, celebrating us, and allowing us to step into your platform. When you talk about friendship is essential to the soul, this is a good example of that. So thank you all so much for your time. I get to mix it up with some of the people that I adore. Dr. Karen DeBose Walton, who runs the Housing Authority for the city of New Haven and has done an amazing job of showing us what leadership can do in terms of providing housing that is decent, safe, and beautiful to live in. My good friend Dory Dumas, who is the director of the president of the NAACP, Greater New Haven NAACP, and is on top of all the issues that pertain to civil rights. You cannot miss her out there in these streets at all. I don't know how she works, because she is always out there fighting the good cause. Dorena Mitchell from Bridgeport, Connecticut. She is a member of the Pi Lambda Zeta chapter of Zeta Phi Beta. Dory's an AKA. Karen DeBose Walton is my soror from Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. I had to throw, we got to throw up our signs and letters and numbers. But Dorena Mitchell is a national certified financial counselor and contract manager with the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund and the city of for the city of New Haven. And she is the woman who knows something about money, I would imagine. And then we have the wonderful and fabulous Alicia Pegues Spearman. She is the first general counsel for Quinnipiac University and also serves in the dual role as vice president of human resources. Thank y'all. So unmute yourselves, sisters.
Hey, Babs.
Hey,
Hi.
Babs. Thank you.
It is nice to see you.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Are leaders made or born?
You can be both, but I say born.
I agree. I think you could be both. And you certainly can help others who don't see it in themselves get to that point. But I do think a lot of the leaders we see are born.
Mm-hmm.
I think we spend a lot of time.
No, I agree. I believe that leaders can be born, but they're also made as well. This really depends on who you have around you to support you.
Okay. Dr. DuBose, Walter?
I think so too. I think there's a ton of work that goes into nurturing and developing our leadership style and trying to develop it in other people. And thank you for doing this to the brothers tonight, because opening up the door and making the opportunity for women as leaders, I think is a huge piece of what we're going to talk about tonight. Because there are a lot of folks who have talents that don't ever get the opportunity to sort of shine as a leader. So I do think it's about how we, what we might be born and our attributes, but also, what we foster in ourselves and what other people pour into us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So when we talk about women leadership, and since we happen to be all Black women, what is that a barrier? Is that a asset? Is it a combination of both? And when did you know that being a Black woman, you would be in these positions of leadership? When was your first intro into leadership? That's a lot of questions in there. I know.
Yeah, I was.
It's a lot.
So I'll say that growing up, being very involved in high school and always taking the lead, always being the captain or the president, just stepping into that role, not really realizing it, but just kind of wanting to make sure the things I enjoyed, I did, and that, we held our teachers accountable. So I've been doing this for a long time, making sure even at James Hill House High School, we were able to get resources and have access to do things we wanted to do at the high school. And so I think some of that started then. Moving, through my journey of life, a lot of it, especially in my role currently, I really did not want to do it. Others saw it in me. I was fine working really hard, very hard, because women, let's just say this, women have always held it down, been in front, and we do the work. We always have. We don't always get the credit. So I too want to thank the men of Epsilon, Iota chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, because this is huge that you are saluting women, honoring women. I remember, and let me just go back to 2003, I was their Citizen of the Year, working along with them, and they always recognize women. So kudos to you, men. But a lot of times, especially in organizations like mine, which is male dominated, and it was hard for women, and being the first, it was a challenge, and it was not easily received by others. So it took some time, but others saw it in me. And I think building a network, getting a mentor, having people that support you, that's helpful when you're leading.
So anybody else want to talk about their experience? Go ahead.
Yeah, you know what? I grew up a little sister, and I have a older sister who has a big personality. And I was always very comfortable being her little sister, being in the shadow, being the quiet one. And it was other people, including my husband, who's on here tonight, Kevin Walton. But it was always other people who were sort of encouraging and pushing me to come out from, playing the behind the scenes role of organizing, and encouraging me to step out and do. And so I think a lot of people along the journey that have noticed things in me, encouraged me to step out and try different things, pushed me to take on jobs or roles that I didn't even see myself in necessarily right away. And those, I think, are really key along my sort of leadership journey experiences that have gotten me to now want to step out a little bit more on my own without needing so much of a push.
Ms. Spearman?
Sure. I mean, I think when I've probably been a leader since I was in first grade. I mean, always sticking up for the underdog, picking the last person to play the volleyball team or whatever. So it's just probably been natural part of me. But I've also always been involved as a youth with the youth NAACP and just always in activities in school growing up, whether it's the brownies or whatever, where I got to build my leadership skill sets. And being a Black woman, I went to all women's college, right? I went to PWI as well as a HBCU. So I've got a lot of experiences where I had the opportunity to lead and be exposed to role models. And there's nothing better about having our authentic style as African-American women, our perspective. And so I just love serving leadership roles. And I think, like everyone else said, sometimes others pushing us to take a position. We're kind of comfortable where we are and not taking that next leap. And I think we have to encourage each other to take the next leap and shoot for the stars and see where we land.
Mm.
Well, I'd say that I was very comfortable being in the background. Even today, I still like to be in the background. I like to get things done. I like to clean it up. But I always have served in excellence. And so a lot of times what happens is that catapults me into positions of leadership when I really don't want to be a leader. So being in the company of other strong women has pushed me into areas of leadership, even though I typically don't like those types of positions, but I had to embrace it and learn that, with these different skills, I can help others to, obtain better positions and things of that nature and to be their best selves.
Thank you. So as we move into this conversation, what I've been listening to over the last couple of years is this notion of imposter syndrome. Now, this is a new concept to me because I came through HBCU. So that wasn't even, you were so poured into from the moment you stepped off whatever the transportation, the bus or the car, or whatever, you was poured in that you were somebody and that wherever you went, you were supposed to be there. But I'm starting to see young women, millennial women, sort of struggle with this sense of imposter syndrome. And I want each of you to sort of speak to that, if it has been your experience, or if you can speak to young women who might be listening, who might be experiencing this notion of imposter syndrome, as if somehow or other they're not good enough, that somebody will see them and know that they might not be who they are presenting to be, all of that kind of stuff.
I'll probably take that one first. I actually haven't been a person that's had the imposter syndrome, but that's my personality and how I was raised to think that I'm always good enough. But I definitely, as being one of the few African-American women that have been on the C-suite of a Fortune 500 company, where I have been the only one and the first one. So I'm able to give other young women lots of advice. And what I will tell you is, trust me, I've seen a lot of weak, incompetent people, and there's nobody better than you and us to take roles of leadership. And I'm being straight up and honest, right? They come in there cocky, thinking they're great, acting like they're the best thing. But when it gets down to it, they're really not that good. And especially for those of you on this phone who are in one of the Divine Nine organizations, the Divine Nine organizations, the way we're raised up and the way we're trained and working on committees and working on regional, international levels, we have all the skills and then some to succeed. So I think that you have to really have a mentor, whether it's internal to your organization or external. All of us on this screen, Karen, Dory, and I, Dorena, we mentor people all the time. We have tons of mentees. So reach out so you can get shored up. I call it your own personal board of directors, right? Obviously, Dory and I are in the same sorority. She's my best friend, but she's not a lawyer. But I can call her and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. What do you think? Because she's got a good perspective and a good head, and she knows me. So I understand the imposter syndrome, but don't let people get into your head. Put a circle around you that understands Blackness, that understands being the only one, that understands being in a male-dominated environment, and let's figure out a plan how to work around it so you're the best and that you succeed.
Mm.
I love that, developing a plan. I got to say though, imposter syndrome is real, right? That we regardless of sort of how Black our network has become, like we come up in a community, in a society that values whiteness, that values maleness, and that sends messages over and over and over to women and to Black women in particular of not enoughness. And so that's like the air we breathe. And so it's like to be fortified against that is absolutely a conscious act that, that Alicia started for you in childhood, maybe for other women starts at different times, but it's a conscious act to push back against the messages that say your hair doesn't grow the right way, your body shape isn't the right way, that you are not a leader because of who you are. And I think about this moment we're in right now, like there's this awakening in this country, about equity and everything, but this is new. Like right now, every board wants a Black woman, and organizations are looking for Black women, and we're like the thing that's hot right now, but it hasn't been that way. Like I'm 55 years old. I've been working for a long time here. It hasn't always been the in thing to want to have a person of color, to have a Black woman, and so my career, I know I've spent a lot of time in spaces that were dominated by white men, particularly. Where it wasn't an equity focus. It wasn't like trying to think about how to be inclusive and trying to figure out place and space and voice and how not to appear in a stereotypical way, right? How not to be the angry this or the angry Black woman or too emotional. Like all of that is at play in our heads, and I think it contributes to a feeling of like, do I belong here? Which might be interpreted as imposter syndrome at some times. Like, am I really supposed to be here? Am I do I deserve to be here? Am I smart enough to be here? And I agree with Alicia. Like once you get in there and you start talking to other people and realizing, like you just need to be up close to realize, like there's nobody better than you. Like you are enough. And other folks might have a more polished sort of initial presentation around it that makes you think that they were just ready for the position from birth. But you talk to them, and you realize, well, they don't know any more than I know. They're no better prepared than I am. And, and I do think it's part of our job to make sure that women coming up younger than us know that and can learn those lessons earlier than maybe I learned it.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that women in leadership pass that along to other women so that you can help empower them. I know for me, and I'll go back, having a mentor and having people who are trustworthy, who will give you honest feedback, who will pour into you, who will help you through this journey. Being the president of NAACP, when I first came in, having to meet with college presidents and CEOs of organizations, and I had a mentor who said to me, when you walk in there, you're the president, you're equal. You go in there with the confidence, with your self-worth, with your message, and you don't let anyone talk down to you. You need people to tell you that no one, no matter how much they make, what company, how many people they are, when you walk in, you are equal, and you go in with that. And so I will say that came with time. That was not easy. Again, being a female, being a Black female, and being in an organization that was predominantly male, it was hard inside my organization and outside. But when you know your value, when you know your worth, when you have a plan, you have to push forward and persevere, and you have to make sure that you walk with the confidence, you're self-aware, you have compassion, and you build a network and have people around you that will support you, help you. And even when you don't want to show them and you want to go offline and need to cry or talk or whatever, you don't ever let them see you sweat, but you have that network, and those people will help you through. And so I will tell especially younger people, don't be afraid to ask questions. And for the people that are more seasoned, don't wait for them to ask questions. Give advice if they're open to it, because sometimes you have to be open. You can't feel like you know everything. You build up, you make sure you have people who are knowledgeable around the things you need, people that you can trust, that will give you information, because you can't trust everyone, and not everyone's going to give you good advice, right? So you got to kind of know that and go with your instinct, but be bold enough to walk into any setting and know your worth, and then handle your business.
Mm. I think another thing too is not letting the influences from like social media and such subliminally tell you that you're not good enough. I think oftentimes people are stuck in like the area of comparing themselves to others, or what they see other people doing and how good it looks on social media and all that other type of stuff, and instead of really focusing on themselves. And I know when I was younger, I had a mentor. I had big brothers, big sisters. And so I wasn't at home on the computer or looking at TV all day. I was outside, I was learning different skills, and I had someone who was older than me pouring into me so that I did know my self-worth. And I think that's something that's missing even now with the younger people, because there's so much social media clout. You're looking at the things that people are saying, and then you're internalizing those things that they're saying as well, and it makes you feel like you're less than. And this just from someone's opinion who's on a tube that you don't even know in real life. So I think that's something that needs to be addressed as well, like maybe cutting down some social media and really embracing being in the company of others who can really strengthen you.
So when we begin to think about who we are in this world, no one on the planet is more maligned about how they look than Black women. The messages and the images are always about an idea of Eurocentric beauty that we are not, and or so few of us are. And so how do we combat these messages that say to us, you're too fat, your hair's not long enough, it's not straight enough, it's not, if you're wearing an afro, that's problematic. How do we, as Black women, how did y'all combat these images that pushed against the narrative of who you are, but what the world is saying you are?
I think it started with a great deal of self-love, to be quite honest. Taking a step back and looking at the things that I can change within like the next 5 minutes. And if I can't change it in 5 minutes, I'm embracing it. And if you don't like what I'm bringing to the table, that is your issue, not mine. And I'm not going to internalize what you see as beauty versus what I see as beauty and how I see myself as beautiful.
Oh, come on, somebody. Come on, somebody. I like that.
I love it, Darina. I mean, I grew up in a home that just poured into me messages of my enoughness and worth and beauty. And so it was strange to go out into a world that didn't mirror that back, but it was true, right? And I grew up in a lot of spaces that didn't have other kids that looked like me. And so there was a lot of challenge around beauty standards and that kind of thing. And I would just echo, like, so you better love yourself, and you better surround yourself with folks who are going to pour back into you your enoughness, that you are everything that you need to be. I just listened to this amazing little snippet from a podcast by Sonia Renee Taylor, who wrote The Body Is Not an Apology. I highly encourage you to read it. It's about radical self-love and embracing your own enoughness. But she just speaks to the fact that, like, when you can connect to the fact that all the things that are beautiful out in the world that you notice, sunsets and sunrises and flowers, and now when you can connect to the fact that you are made of the same, like by the same being that made all of those beautiful things, like, you can't help but embrace your own amazingness. And she ends it with just saying she walks through the world just knowing that she's a sunset out in these streets. And that's become my mantra. Like, y'all need to know I'm a sunset out in these streets. And we need to just carry ourselves like that we are part of God's creation, and enoughness and beauty, and tune out all those other messages. And it's not, and we got to acknowledge that those messages come from our own people too, right? That we've internalized that stuff. And so it's pushing back against that as well.
And that's what I was going to say, Karen. We have to, as women, support each other as well. Right? Not always talking about, oh, her hair is not done, her edges are messed up, oh, I can see her wig glue, all of that negative stuff, right? We control our own narrative and how we treat and want people to treat us. So I think that's very important on social media. If you have young women, I think early on, let them know about social media and how they should interact with social media. But self-love and reaffirmation is important. I mean, but we have to be realistic too, right? The majority of society is still like, why are you wearing braids to work? Why is your hair curly? They want to touch our curly hair, right? So sometimes you have to get in an organization, right? And then show them who you are and let them see the brilliance that you have. But, we just had the Hair Discrimination Act. That's still only certain states have passed that. So we are being discriminated and judged on our looks. So I think you do have to have some self-worth and just, like I said, a board of directors, a support group that can cheer you on. But let's be careful about how we interact and what we say about each other in person and in social media.
So knowing your history, teaching a history, having after-school programs, starting as young as babies, and telling our young people just how beautiful, fabulous, and wonderful they are, just the way they are, I think is important. And too often we have self-hate, and we still go back to things that we think, certain ways are better than who we are. And that really works against everything. And it really puts young people and women and Black men as well in a position to feel that if they're not looking like a certain standard, that's not okay. And we have to change that by starting from day one. Pour into our young people, pour into our own children, have programs that uplift them, that teach them their history, their greatness, and continue to do positive affirmations in these programs. A lot of our organizations, we have youth mentorships, and we have programs where we can interact with young people. So even if they're not receiving it at home, we can do that. In the schools, they can do that. Keep empowering them and telling them and making sure they understand and receive and embrace just how beautiful they are, just the way they are, and that we see them, we value them, and we appreciate them how they come, and they don't have to change. And a lot of social media, people have all these filters and all these things. You got to tell these young people, don't be looking at all that. And a lot of them have surgery. Own your own beauty. And if it's things that you can change and you want to change, do it because you want to, not because you're looking at something on a video that's probably altered anyway. Just go and walk in your own greatness and be who you are and walk boldly.
I want to say, Babs, it's funny when you have a national stage or you're in a national position. So I was elected as Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated's North Atlantic Regional Director, and I'm more of a plus size woman. I cannot begin to tell you that friends are sending me pictures of a picture of me in an outfit with my head cut off, and everyone on this plus size Facebook group is like, where did she get these clothes? Like she's representing. Now I've been traveling. I just got back from Raleigh. I got back from Alabama. People are coming up to me and saying, I follow you now. I love your style. I love your dress. So a lot of people watch you when you don't know they're watching you. And we can be an inspiration too, that you can be plus size and be a leader. You can be plus size and be beautiful. You can be plus size and be intelligent. So I think we forget sometimes how much people are actually watching us, from the young to the older, and how you can inspire people by just being kind and giving an encouraging words. I'm big on kindness. I'm big on telling somebody, trust me, you can do this position, because the rest of them aren't better than you. So if we could just do that a little bit more in our community and have our brothers here, I'm glad that they're here supporting us and giving us this platform to uplift women. It's very, very important.
So I'm gonna take some questions, but before we get to questions, I want us to go a little bit deeper. Being a leader is a heavy lift. It is an extraordinarily lonely, isolating role. And we carry a great deal on our backs and on our shoulders. A lot of it spoken, a lot of it unspoken. How do we take care of our mental health? Because we're seeing too many of our young sisters dying by suicide, checking out, having nervous breakdowns, suffering silently. How do we combat that up against trying to sort of be leaders in all the things that we say we need to do, and taking on these responsibilities with full hearts, but still, and it doesn't matter if you have a husband of 30 years, it doesn't matter if you have a sorority sister, all these things. Leadership is a lonely, isolating role. And how do we sort of turn the tides in saving our mental health so that we can continue to do this work?
I think that for so long, especially the Black woman has been suffering in silence because she's the strong woman. She's the superwoman. She has everything under control. She's taking care of everything. And so a lot of times it's really hard for her to reach out and ask for help, because you'll be judged if you ask for help, or you'll feel like you're less than. Like, I can handle my stuff and I don't want anyone else to talk about me, so I'll just keep everything within these four walls. But I think that we've come to a time where we know that that is a place of trauma that we operate out of when we're suffering in silence. And it's time to really build our support circles and systems with people that we can trust, that are positive and that will pour into us when we're down. One of the things that I like to say is that, I'm reloading. So I'm out, I'm down, you know what I mean? So as I'm reloading, cover me. So as you're covering me, I can, I can reload, I can get my strength up again, and I can get back in the game. But I think it's important to be able to reach out to those people that you trust to let them know, listen, I'm struggling and I don't want everybody to know my business. And I know I don't have to worry about that with you. But I really need some assistance at this time. So please help me.
Thank you.
I mean, Black folks, when we, men on this phone too, getting counseling is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. And the more we talk about it, and the place that we need to talk about it, where we often don't, is in the church, right? Because people listen to the pastors as a powerful position. And I think that you just have to understand that how to say no sometimes, right? These women on this panel with me, people are coming at us all the time asking us for stuff. And you have to grow in leadership and learn when to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. But I also think you have to recognize the symptoms and do some self-care, whether it's just going by yourself to read a book, getting into bed early and getting additional hours of sleep, right? Having a real counselor, your girlfriend or girl with can always be your counselor. You may actually need a professional counselor to deal with childhood trauma or just stuff that's going on in your life today. So I would just really encourage that we hope as a society, as a culture, we can move away from having a counselor or a psychiatrist as being something negative, because it used to be that we didn't commit suicide. But now our kids from 9 to 35 of all demographics, socioeconomics, are committing suicide. And so I think there's something that we have to grapple with as a society and find professional support.
And I do agree. And I think we need to remove the stigma around getting professional support. But also, I think it is good if you have outlets. I think balance is so important. And sometimes you just have to stop and say, I need a little me time. For me, I've found in the last couple of years, I've started yoga because it helps me breathe and stretch and just, calm down, because life is moving so fast. And, with the organization, when you're leading, you're like Alicia said, people are coming at you and the requests are out there and the work is out there and you have so much to do. And then you have a family and you have other things. So some point you have to stop, slow down and find outlets, be it exercise, working out, maybe getting that massage once a month, doing things that really help you get in tune with yourself and slow it down so that you can take care of yourself, because we cannot take care of everyone else if we're falling apart. And the job is going to keep going. These positions are going to keep going. Something happens to one of us, somebody's going to pick it up and keep going. So you better take care of yourself. And if you need professional help, get it. But sometimes you do need that circle of trust and that circle of friends that you can just have as an outlet. Or you can just say, I just need a break, so make sure self-care is the best care. And yes, we are women leaders, but we're also, some of us are mothers and doing so many other things. And we cannot continue to do that. Although we do have powers as Black women, we better be realistic and make sure we take care of ourselves.
So Karen, give me the sense of, and I appreciate the self-care, but what I'm talking about is a bit more deeper than a bubble bath and a book and a candle. We are experiencing a mental health crisis in ways that we have not ever seen before, and beyond. We're not having real conversations in our communities about someone with bipolar and depression and severe depression and all the things. So talk to us a little bit about the depth of that.
Yeah, I'm sitting back and taking in all of the advice from the sisters who were just sharing there as a reminder, because my PhD is in clinical psychology, right? And I know wellness. I've studied wellness, and yet I need these reminders each and every day about sort of how to take care of myself. I need each and every day to pause and take stock of like, when have I not checked in with myself and how I'm feeling? And so just listening to you all tonight has been wonderful. And that raising that question, because in the hustle and bustle, that can be the thing that falls by the wayside and not paid attention to. I would add to what's been said here, like boundaries. Like we have got to be good about setting up boundaries for ourselves about what's okay for us, and not allow others to impede upon those boundaries in a way that's harmful for us. right? Boundaries create that space where I can love and support you while still loving and supporting myself. And I think we have to practice that. I would just say to the crisis. I mean, it is there are so many crises impacting our communities right now, and Black women are right in the center of all of them, not immune to any of them. And the crisis of mental health is a huge one. And we're seeing it in levels of addiction. We're seeing it in use of alcohol and other substances. We're seeing it in depression and anxiety and mental illness in levels that are really alarming. And it speaks to our disconnection from ourselves and our disconnection from each other, which are the places where health and healing really reside. So it's a call for us as a community, I think, to be able to have those really honest conversations. I wear a tattoo on my wrist that is a sign of the sense that there is always more. It comes out of the suicide prevention movement. I wear it publicly on my wrist as an invitation for conversation. Like, it's okay to talk about this stuff. It's okay to talk about the fact that that things get hard sometimes, and that you might think like, this is it, and that there is always more. Like, there is always, it's not a period, there's always more to the story. But to get to the more, you can't always do it alone. Like, and you're encouraged not to do it alone. To get to the more is the connection with other people. It is the reaching out to your pastoral counseling and for the prayer and support. But it is also reaching out for clinical support when you need that in therapists and counselors and psychologists. And I think we as a community have to be more open to that, more open to talking about it, more open to supporting it and seeing the signs in other people, and not just looking at the other way when we see our sister or our brother drinking too much or using other substances or exhibiting anxiety or depression. We can't just pray it away. We can't just look away from it, but we have to be willing to engage around it and get people connected to help when we need.
I think we need to drop the dime. We need to drop the dime. So like, if somebody is really acting differently, it's not really a negative drop the dime telling on them, right? So when I was in law school, a friend called a couple times. The next time she called, so I saw a bus today, I wanted to walk in front of a bus. So I was like, what'd you say? They said something else. And I had to figure out what was I going to do. I had to call her parents, right? It was kind of weird calling her parents on my friend. And luckily they drove up and got to her, and it was just a bad space in her life at that time. And now she's totally fine and has a wonderful life, right? But Karen said something really powerful. Like, what's the signs? What's the signs of depression after having a baby? If you all of a sudden can never get up and you're tired, maybe that's a sign that your friend's depressed, right? So maybe you're going to your EAP at work, or you're going somewhere and giving her the actual number. You don't sound like yourself. You know, what is in Connecticut? You could dial 211. 211 puts you in touch with a lot of services, Alcohol Anonymous, whatever, domestic violence. So I think that's really important, that we need to just not just say, oh, she's just tired, to get some rest, like give our little, whatever, our big mama remedies. Like, now in this day and age, we need to give some real, like Karen's a real doctor. Like, let's talk about some of these things that will really be helpful by giving a person a number and not sweeping it under the rug.
So, Darina,
and
Alicia,
just to make the connection, Babs, just to make the connection to leadership that you were talking about, though, because, I think we do, when you talk about leadership being isolating and the expectation that are put on leaders and what they need to be, I think we also have to humanize, like leaders are people just like everybody else. And it can't be, to show that vulnerability, to show your humanness, has to be a part of being a leader, because actually, people don't want to follow artificial, inauthentic people who never show any of their humanity and who they are. Like, people follow humans, right? People who can show their vulnerability, their emotion, their ups, their downs, their struggles, their challenges. Like, that's what connects people to you, to wanting to follow you. And right, if you're a leader out there and nobody's following you, you're just taking a walk. Like, you need people like inspired by you, and your story is so much of what I think people connect to and make them want to follow you. And your story is a human story. Oh, we got to share all of it, not just the glossy parts.
I was going to shine a light on that part. Make sure to share your stories, share your struggles. So many times people want to hide when they're going through things, or they've been through an illness, or they're having some real issues, and how they got through and how they were able to push through and persevere, and that they did go get some professional help. So sometimes, people are very secretive because they, don't want people to look at them as weak, but sharing that gives power and empowers others to maybe go seek that help that is very much needed. So I think we don't always have to be so private. Let's share our stories so that people can see themselves in what we are and what we've been through, and maybe that can help save a life or help save somebody from doing something that could be harmful.
So Dory, Karen, Alicia, and Darina, what is all, and can we have it?
Not at the same time, right? Like you can't be the exceptional everything all at the same time. And we got to be okay with that. Like, I mean, I've been a wife and mother through my leadership journey. I have to know that there were times when I leaned really in on this, and maybe I missed something from my kids. Or there were times when I checked and I said, like, I need this for my kids. And so I had to miss something on the work professional side. I hope my husband doesn't weigh in here, but I'm sure there are probably times where he felt like, geez, everybody else is getting something, right? Where's my time? What about me? So like, I think we can have full, rich lives that speak to all of it, but we also have to be realistic about like things. There's got to be a give and take. Like when you're giving your all to something, like give yourself grace that something else has to, and have some people who can step in and fill some, not with your spouse, like you don't want anybody stepping in there, but it was someone else who can step in and help you, like with some of the childcare stuff, or take on some of the load at work, or that kind of thing. Because I think we can strive to have as rich and full lives as we want, but we have to be realistic about how much of us there is to go around, and we can still be happy and healthy.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to weigh in before we move on to
I was just going to say too that I think that connects with trying to be all things to all people. Like we are stretching ourselves in so many different places because we feel like we can help someone have it all. We can help everyone attain everything that they want. And I think it's too much. It's too much pressure. And there are definitely a lot of things that we want to do in our lives, but we have to pace ourselves. We have to enjoy the journey. We have to embrace it. And we have to, give ourselves some grace along the journey, but also like take time to really figure out what we're focusing on at the moment. And if you have a great circle or support system, I'm big on this. I'm really big on this, especially, since I became a single mother, like I'm really big on the support system, because when things get a little tough and, motherhood is not looking so bright, I need somebody to step in and give me a little break so I can breathe again and figure out what I need to do to reassess the situation and make sure I can be my best self in every area of my life. But I know that I have to just, I have to give myself some grace.
Mm-hmm.
I do think giving yourself some grace is very important. I also think being very honest with yourself, being self-aware of what really makes you happy. Alicia and I talk about when it's all over, one of us are going to say, we lived our lives full, we did it up, and we enjoyed the journey. If you're not enjoying the journey, there's times in my life, if I had to go back, especially as a leader with young children and the things I missed, I'm like, did I need
Dory,
to do
you are
that?
jumping ahead to my next question.
but what I want to say is, I will tell younger people, younger leaders, I did not have to do everything, be at every meeting, go to every, back then, I thought that's what I needed to do in order to look like the leader I wanted to be and be perceived as, when in reality, there were other people who could have, stepped in while I did other things. Because, especially for those of us that are mothers, your children are only children. You blink and they grow up and you miss a lot. And you're trying to do all of this. And sometimes you have regrets. And so stop. Make some time, let others do things, let others step in, make sure that, you train or have other people you trust that can do what you would like to be done and give good direction, right? So if we give good direction and guidance, we don't have to do everything. We don't have to be everything, but we should be real and check in with ourselves, not what people think is, oh, you got this going on and you're doing this, that, and the other. No, are you happy? Are you doing the things you want to do that really truly make you happy? Because at the end of the day, if you're not, you probably need to pivot and really let some of that go and be okay with it.
And it's a season for everything, right? And my husband's a member of EII. I see him on the screen as well. And I have to say, by his guidance, right? I wanted to be, he's like, you know, we have one child. Can you wait to be the grand poobah of AKA until she graduates from high school? And you know what? He was absolutely right, because I could not be an executive, a wife, a mother, and be AKA regional director. And now that I saw what it took to campaign for over a year and now be in this position, I would never have been able to give my daughter and my husband the time and attention that they both need and deserve, right? Now she's in college and I was able to do that. So if it's meant for you, if it's God destined and ordained for you, your season will come. You can't be all things. What is it? Jack of all trades, a master of none, right? We do have heart attacks and strokes. So you want to make sure you take care of yourself and don't take on everything. Take on what makes you happy and what you can do. Great question,
So
man.
Is there any moment in your journey from there to now that you take some time to reflect? Because I think the question from one of the chats is, talk a little bit about the path, your journey. Talk about that. But I want to put a little something else onto it. When you think about your journey from where you sit now, what would you tell yourself at every point? What would you tell your 20-year-old self, your 30-year-old self? Now, I don't want to go any further, but some of y'all might be where I'm
We're
at.
not still in the 30s. We're still in our 30s, aren't we?
Over 40 and over 50. And you know, what would you tell your past self? And then take some time to reflect on, what would you say to your future self? Like, what would you say to yourself when you get to the place where you can look back and say, you know, I've done all these things, you know, and what's the newest dream? What's the other dream? What's the next adventure? Do some reflecting.
You know, Babs, my journey has certainly not been a straight one, and the things I've done are in my life are not the things that I thought I'd do when I started out. You know, I thought I was going to be a practicing psychologist. That was going to be my career path. It took so many different twists and turns along the way. And I think the thing that sustains me through everything is a deep faith that things align the way they're supposed to, right? And it's rooted in faith, and in a faith that that things work together for the good of those, right? Who and so I think I would tell my 20-year-old self, to relax, to chill, and to hold that faith that like things are unfolding the way they should be. And you know, even when I have setbacks, or you know, I was used to a career where I, you know, was selected for roles because people saw something in me. I rarely interviewed for jobs. Like, I was often tapped and selected for things, and then board positions and that kind of thing, or you know, I ran for office in sorority and that kind of thing. But it was a very humbling experience to run for political office on a couple of occasions, and not have the outcome that I thought going into it, and to be able to step back from those moments and see all of the other possibilities that opened up, all of the things that were revealed to me along the way, all the things ways that positioned me for other things, just reinforced the sense that like the path may not be exactly as I planned, as I thought, but the path is always working together for my good. There is always a reason. There's always something to be learned. There's always some door. If that door was closed, it was closed for a reason. It was protecting me from something, or was preparing me for something, and holding on to that. And so that's what I would want my 20-year-old self to know, like, chill, like do the work, right? Do all of the things, but know that it's going to unfold the way that it's meant to unfold for you, and that's going to be beautiful. It's going to be your journey, and it can't be anybody else's journey but yours. And I think that's what I want my future self to hold on to.
When I look back, my early 20s, I never saw myself in the spaces that I've been in. I never saw myself in the rooms that I've been in. And so I did not see that for myself. I don't even think I desired it for myself. I always had a desire to give back, to uplift my community, to serve my community. So I'm a servant leader. That was in me that those seeds were planted from childhood. Something in me always wanted to be able to help others, uplift others, advocate for others. But I never saw myself in these leadership roles, not through the sorority. I was Bacillus and Bacillus of the Year and all these things. Other people saw it in me and encouraged me and poured into me. On NAACP, I tried everything but to be president. And everyone was like, oh no, this is you're next. This is it. This is happening. And I had people like Jim Rollins and Scott and others was like, just pushing me forward. And then, you know, you get into these roles and it's not easy. It's never been easy. None of the leadership roles I've had have been easy. But this little girl from Newhallville, I'm proud of the life I've led. I'm proud of the leadership. I'm proud of the doors I've opened for others. I'm proud of really working with integrity, moving with grace, and doing the things that I've done. And I think that mentoring others to try to do, you know, because especially doing something like civil rights and standing up for others, it's not easy work. It's never been easy. And a lot of people get so comfortable and they forget that we're still struggling. We're still fighting. So many people, the complaints that come in, and a lot of people on the screen have had issues at their jobs or their apartments or their housing. So these things go on, and somebody's got to do this work because we're still trying to make ways and pathways for others. So no, I didn't see that for myself. I don't know that I desired it, but I feel I'm comfortable, and I really appreciate those who saw it in me, pushed me along, and those that have worked alongside me. I appreciate the people like EII, who I've always been able, you know, they tap into me, I tap into them, we work together, and others that just see that in my heart, I'm always going to do the work for the people. And if you come along with me, we're going to do it together. And so I'm proud of that. But I didn't see that. In my future, I am currently really trying to pour in and help others see the importance of the work around civil rights and the NAACP, so that other young people, women and men, will step into this role, and that I could still continue to do it because it's in me and I will always do it, but that I don't have to lead, but I can be a guide or just help others along the way and pour into them. So I see something in other people, and I hope they'll receive it the way I received it when others saw it in me.
Mm. Mm.
I think I would tell my 20-year-old self not to let other people steer me from the path that I'm trying to reach. Outside influences really had me discouraged when I was younger. So whereas now I do have my master's in finance, when I was younger, I wanted to be an accountant. And I had friends that were like, you know, your life is going to be so boring. You're not going to be able to do anything, you know, just things like that. So then I pivoted and I worked in social work. And I had tunnel vision, like there was nothing else that could be done. And I would have told myself, well now I would tell myself, you know, you can do both. You can still help in the community, but still pursue the goal that in the career that you're really interested in. For my 30-year-old self, I would tell myself, you don't have to be perfect all the time. You can make mistakes. It's okay. Take a deep breath. You don't have to, you know, like really even now, like take a deep breath. You don't have to be perfect at all times. You know, there's certain things that you strive and you excel in. There's other areas that you can build up, and that's fine. But again, give yourself some grace. And for my future self, I would just say embrace the journey. Have a good time. Like take a minute, take your shoes off, take a breath, sip some lemonade, do something, you know, but take some time for you. You do so much for other people in the community, but definitely take some time for you that you can enjoy what's going on around you.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's like, I think back, I'm a proud Hamden, Dory's repping the Ville. I'm repping Hamden, the streets of Hamden. I grew up in Hamden, very proud of it. But, you know, back in the day, let's think about it. I was dogged out by people, right? You talk like a white girl while you're in these smart classes, and it really hurt, right? But now I'm like the homegirl superstar. Like they're like, oh, you always knew you were going to be a lawyer and all that stuff. So I think that you have to realize that sometimes you got to get better friends, right? Or this too shall pass. And I think for my younger self, I don't know, I was always driven. So I don't know. I think I did everything okay when I was younger self. I mean, I tried new things. So I think it's important to know what you don't like as well as what you do like. I think for the future self, it's like, slow down. You really are doing the most. Like, you got to relax. You older, stop tripping. You need to just relax, slow down, and take time for yourself. So that's really all I have for the future. I just want to be on a Fortune 500 board. And when I am, I will be retiring. And I will probably do what I have been doing. I do lots of leadership seminars. I love coaching young women. I love helping people get jobs, men too, because I really think that we have to be our own presidents and CEOs, and we need to be at the top, pulling each other up. So I'm really about the empowerment of our Black people, not a crabs in a barrel mentality. So I really want to make sure that everybody's thinking in that mindset. You can't keep blaming the other people, the other society, when we actually, at this point in time, have the knowledge and the ability to work together across demographics, across sorority lines, fraternity lines, to build our own communities so we're self-sufficient. So I'm really looking forward to more of us being self-sufficient. And the millennials are pretty cool. That's why we ain't got nobody working at McDonald's, because they just going online and selling like a beat, or going online and selling some dinged up sneakers, right? So we may want to learn from them. You got millennials working for you. They're like, it is 5 o'clock and I'm going to the gym. And we're still there slaving away, right? So we got to maybe just think about how to relax. So I like part of that millennial thinking that use, relaxing and vacation. I like that.
So I will say, I love Black men. I have been loved deeply by Black men. I have raised 2 Black sons, but I live and die and survive and thrive on the friendships of my women friends. And I want you each to talk a little bit about what it means to have sorority sisters and women friends who hold you down in ways that it is hard to sort of explain. People are writing whole white papers about our relationships to each other. And it is a thing of beauty. No one has the kinds of relationships that Black women have to each other. Contrary to all the reality shows, Black women friendships are sustaining and nurturing. And I don't think we hear about them enough. And I want each of you to talk about what your women friendships have meant to you. And talk a little bit about if you had a mother that was the beginning of the first friendship, or your sister, and it can be your sorors, it could be your sisters, it could be your cousins, it could be your girlfriend that you met in kindergarten and you're still friends with. Talk a little bit about those kinds of relationships and what they have brought to your life.
Shoot, nobody going first? All right, let me go ahead and go first. Good Lord.
Okay.
Well, first of all, women friends are everything. I mean, like I said, I went to women's college. Somebody on this Zoom looked me up and just shot me a note. They went to the same college that I went to. So social media is a trip and Google's a trip. But everything, because when you're sad, and who can hold your secrets, right? Like my mom, everybody knows my mom. She's probably on this webinar right now. She's one of my best friends, right? But you can have best friends, new best friends throughout different decades of your life. Like I said, Karen and I have been in organizations. We're both moms. That's somebody who I can go to and trust. We're in different sororities, but I know Karen's got a good head on her shoulders. I can ask her a question and trust that she'll give me good advice, right? So I just really think that if you don't have a mentor, I've seen someone that I've admired, and I went up to her and said, you are the best labor and employment I've ever seen. You got to be my mentor, right? And so sometimes if people don't come to you, you should reach out, because the shared sadness and joys that we have as African-American women, as wives and mothers, like we need each other to really, live and also excel. So, I mean, obviously I could just go on and on because I'm leader of a sorority, but there really is nothing like, I love my husband, right? I got a father, brother, everybody else, uncles. But I think the sister girlfriends just can get you fired up. There's nobody better to go on a vacation with than Dory Dumas, right? We ride and die hard, like she said.
I know, because she's coming on my vacation.
Yeah. you wonder how she works, and she has so many vacations, but I ain't mad at my friend. She does what she's supposed to do. She does her work, and she has a lot of fun. So I don't know if anybody, like some people say, I'm always suspect, and I'm sorry if y'all are on this screen. I am suspect of the woman who says, I don't have that many women friends.
Oh my
I got
God,
guy
Alicia.
friends. I'm like, well, honey, you missing out on a lot.
I am so with you. I'm so glad you said that, because I find that suspect too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what is lacking in that woman that she would say she doesn't have any women friends, and I pray for them because I can't imagine it. So anybody else want to jump in? And
I'd like to say that before there was that sister circle show that there's out right now, I had a sister circle, right? When I first had my daughter, I went through some postpartum depression situations, and I had friends that I met when I went to Bennett College. I'm not going to say how many years ago, praise the Lord. Um, but I was able to reach out to them, and they were so supportive, and they were praying with me. They were talking me through. They had children of their own already. And even to this day, I'm still friends with all of them, as well as a bunch of different women now. And I have to say that these friendships keep me going. If I wake up and I'm having a rough day, and if I drop something in the chat, they know exactly where to go. They know exactly what to say. If I want to get away for a weekend because I need some mental health time, they're coming too. We're not going to bother each other. We're going to all be in our own little space, but we're there to support each other, and really just being able to bounce ideas off of each other, talk about different business ideas and, things with children, things in church, things in the community, things that we are concerned about that we want to work together to make a difference on. There's nothing like that. And especially when I talk about my sorors, like I smile from the inside because I feel like they help to make me I had an issue with like my level of professionalism at one point. I did. And then I had some sorority sisters who were just kind of like, listen, this is what you can do. This is how you can pull it together. You can present yourself this way and you'll be fine. And ever since then, I found success. So I'm really grateful for all these connections because without them, I don't know. I'd probably be in a corner somewhere just crying or by myself. And I don't like all that. So from these, and it's not the number of friends, it's the quality of friends, really, because they're from all different fields, all different careers, different places in the world, different backgrounds from growing up and parenting and all that other stuff. And it has really, really been a great asset to my life.
I will say I value my friendships, and I have many people that I can truly call a friend, and I am a loyal friend to them as well. I think it's extremely important. Actually, I think it's crucial to moving along in life to have those kinds of friendships and people you can actually rely on, depend on, turn to, people who will be honest with you, people who will, hold you accountable, but also support you and be your biggest cheerleader. Not, no competition, just love on me. I love on you. We support each other and we're there for each other. The sorority has afforded me such a beautiful, huge friendship. I think somebody's off mute. And just different women from all different backgrounds, from different things that I've gotten to meet and know women that I would have never had the opportunity to know had I not been in fortunate enough to be in the illustrious sisterhood of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So I truly value that as well. I know some people, like they become members of they're not active, you never see them or whatever. But no matter where you go in the world, my daughter ended up doing a year in Australia. And because I had a soror who was from Brooklyn that lived there, I had someone to look after my daughter. I mean, that's the kind of, what you could get from the sorority. And also like these people, you have to tap into helping other young people, and it's such a big resource, but it's also just a place to be a woman, support each other, love on each other, understand each other, and cheer each other on through life. So I think both have been extremely valuable. I don't take any of it for granted, and I think it's a beautiful thing. And I'm glad and grateful for my friends and my sorors.
And I too don't know what I would do without my sister girl friendships, my Black women friendships, beginning with being raised by an amazing Black woman who modeled for me everything about Black womanhood, and Delta Hood also, as my mom was a member of my organization. Being born to have a sister, a biological sister, and so that first friendship and knowing what that felt like, to have somebody to share secrets with growing up, to the adult sisterhood friends that I've formed, my friends, my sister friends at Yale, my line sisters and my sorors got me through Yale. When I moved to Boston to get my PhD, it was a group of Black women that became my support, that got me through this foreign land that I landed in called Boston, and and got me through a PhD program. It has been my sister friends that have been there through pregnancy, through marriage, through all the ups and downs of life. There, the just ups and downs of life that I can't imagine what that would have been without the powerful bond of sister, where you can see yourself more clearly in relationship. I think I see myself more clearly in relationship. They have been places of healing at times when I needed healing in those friendships. They're places of great joy and laughter and fun in those relationships. So I agree. I feel for people who don't have good sister friend relationships, and I hope that they can do the work that whatever hurt and harm led to that place of not being able to see and loving, trusting relationships. I hope that's healed, because it is a beautiful thing to have good friends, to good sister friends, and particularly to have good Black sister girlfriends.
I wanted to say too, I'm sorry, I really think that started, I think the foundation for having such great relationships really started with my mother. Like, I went from her being, I'm not one of your little friends, to being like my best friend now.
That's so Black mother. I don't know any other mother on the planet that says that but Black mothers.
Right. And now at this point, it's like we talk about everything, and there's even such joy watching her like be a grandmother to my daughter. You know what I mean? It's like she's teaching her different things from a different perspective. Once they have grandchildren, they're a little different. They're a little more strict with us and a lot more lenient with the grandchildren. I'm hating a little bit, but it's all good. But I really would say that like that foundation has been everything. Even with her mother, I had a great relationship with her as well. And as many kids as my grandmother had, she had 10 kids, and I don't even know how many grandkids, but she made every person feel special, like they were her favorite. And I don't know what it is, how she had that gift to do such a thing, because there's a lot of us, and we all were able to share different things with her. So I think the foundation of just the family life really set the tone for us.
Thank you for that. Thank you. So since we are on the Brothers platform, what do we want the good brothers to know about our leadership style? If we could talk to them, and we can in this moment, what are we going to say to them? What do we want them to know about how we roll?
I think that they already do a lot of it. So I think respect the Black woman is huge, right? Respect her position, respect her leadership, receive it, embrace it, encourage it. Just like you would a male. And I think that, looking at it and making sure that we put all of those chauvinist and other kinds of feelings aside, because sometimes men feel like if it's a woman, and I got to take direction, they don't always receive it that well. But I think that respecting the woman, respecting what she's bringing to the table, working along with her, and really uplifting her is going to benefit them. Because when the Black woman feels that, especially in some of these boardrooms and other things, I know some of you all don't always get to see that, it goes a long way. So I think that's important.
I guess I would add to that. I appreciate Dory's perspective just now. I certainly agree with that. And just to build on it, it would be that I want us to see our leadership and our success as so deeply intertwined, that when Black men soar and do well, that Black women are soaring and do well, and that when Black women are soaring and doing well, that Black men are soaring. That we're in this together, and that we won't be all that we can be if we're not seeing it in that way. And so I think to appreciate each other's style. If women lead, I know I lead in a way that is about connection and consensus, and trying to hear different voices, and I want Black men to recognize that as a leadership style. And I want to be able to respect leadership styles that look differently than ours, and to recognize that that's all, that we're all in this together, and that it's not, that we're just not going to be the best that we can be if we're not ensuring that Black men are soaring and that Black women are soaring and getting in spaces. I got to say that Black women hold it down for the Black community. And so if you help elevate Black women into leadership, Black women get into leadership and then care about the entire Black community, the Black men, Black children. And that we need to know that, and we need to help Black women get into those positions.
I agree with what both of you ladies said as far as respect. It's hard enough to work in a position of leadership when you're looked at differently already because you're a woman, and then because you're a Black woman. So I don't then also want to have odds with you because I'm in this position. I'm in this position because I'm going to do my best, and it doesn't mean that you're not able to bring your ideas to the table and we can't work on them together. But at the same time, we have to be able to respect the fact that I am in this position and I'm going to do the best for this position, and still allow you to exercise whatever thoughts and ideas you have as well.
I think the only thing I would add, and I agree with everything that has been said, is that, if some Black men feel put upon because they're Black men, we have a double whammy because we're Black women. So we have the gender thing going on and the colorism, which is very hard. And I think that just because we're leading does not mean that we don't want you to lead, right? We can lead together, maybe different styles, but just supporting each other, I think is very, very important. So it's not like we're trying to be a man or take over a man's role. We just have a female way and we're leading. And I think that when we lead together, our whole Black family unit thrives.
Wow. I think that's pretty good. I think brothers, did you hear it? I hope you heard it. We're very loud and clear about it. So I want to move right into when we are in spaces and have to come up against the white gaze. Y'all know what I mean when I say the white gaze? When we are our Black selves in white spaces, particularly in leadership spaces, and how do we maneuver those waters, and how do we sort of stay on focus and on agenda when the forces against us sort of shortcome our abilities and shortchange our thinking process, and second guess and man speak over us and mansplain through us what is happening. Give us some of your best coping tips for dealing with those kinds of situations. And it don't have to be 10 of them, but your best tips for dealing with folks who, might come at you a little differently because you're a sister in leadership.
I think it's important to make sure that you don't shrink back in those situations. Sometimes I think that those tactics are used to kind of intimidate us and make us think that, well, maybe I am thinking about this wrong, or maybe I'm going about this the wrong way. I think it's important to still stand in whatever your idea is and to continue to push forward and to be an agent of change, because they're not used to it. And so therefore they're going to combat everything that you have going on, and that's fine. But you're going to stand in that strong and not shrink back and let them know, listen, I understand where you're coming from. This is a different perspective and it's going to work. And you're just going to have to trust me or not trust me and watch it succeed anyway.
I think as my more mature self, my best tip to myself or others is I always have bubbles over my head. So I won't go stereotypical and start doing my neck and going off, but my bubbles over my head are surely saying, you've got to be kidding me. You're an idiot. And I think that I've had some really tough times. I was the first person of color, male or female, Indian, Black, Chinese, anything, at General Dynamic Electric Boat. And when I interviewed individual and group, one group said, well, how are you going to feel being here with us? Because we've never had a person of color. And I almost laughed and I caught myself. And then I kind of did laugh. I'm like, well, I'm kind of used to it. So it's not going to be a change for me. Right. So that was one thing. But I think you also have to not get punked down. So when I'm working with nuclear engineers on a shipyard and I'm in union negotiations, when he's cussing me out, I'm going to have to come out of my refined character and cuss him out. because otherwise the rest of the men on the union table aren't going to respect me, right? But then even in the senior team meeting, when an older, obviously white gentleman came for me, at some point you have to let them know they can't keep coming for you like that, right? So I already had a daddy, so you ain't gonna point at me across the table like you're my daddy. And I had to say that, right? And I had to go back and forth until the president stopped us both. So, you know, it's not something you want to be in, but sometimes the younger self, I'd be so angry that I would cry, right? But I've taught myself, if you got to get to that point, go in the bathroom and cry, because you got to never let them see you cry, right? But then it's just how you deal with it in a very, I mean, now I can just, you know, out verbiage them, you know, I'm just very refined, right? Cuss them out in a very refined way. But I think you do have to sometimes understand you're a woman, but you got to, what's your circumstance? Stand up for yourself and let them know that you're not going to just be walked over. And so I think really standing up for yourself in a way that doesn't get you fired for insubordination. But I think it's very important that sometimes you have to give as good as you get.
I do think that, especially being in the organization I'm in, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to address it head on. You have to speak up for yourself, and you have to demand respect. You give respect, but I think that you do have to advocate and address it head on. Straight talk makes for straight understanding. Give what the expectation is, how you want to move forward, and that, you know, we're going to address this and then we're going to move on, because people will challenge you. There is pushback, and especially being a Black woman, people challenge you a lot. And you don't have to go there. And I do think as we mature, we learn how to handle things better, because even 10 years ago, I may not have done that. I probably would have handled it a little differently, but you learn, and you realize that keeping your calm, having your confidence, and addressing it head on and advocating and speaking up for yourself is going to go a longer way and get you to where you need, versus, you know, cussing them out, unless you have to. Now let's not do that when, you know, as much as possible. But because I don't feel like it has the same results. But I do think being very direct about it and calling it out is very important, and then demanding that things as you move forward are handled differently. And so again, that comes down to respect, integrity, and valuing who you are and knowing your value. And so, and hopefully people can respect that.
Here. I've had more than my share of examples of, you know, being in spaces with white folks, seeing them use, you know, the doctor honorific for everybody else, and then getting to me and it's Ms. Du Bois-Walton, having to correct folks. No, actually, it's Dr. Du Bois-Walton, right? I've had moments sitting in my office where my name is on the nameplate, where I'm sitting at the head of the table, and people come in, sit down, and try to address the white person in the room as though they're the boss, and having to sort of reassert, you know, whose space you're in right now, whose office this is. That it's hard to escape that there's not something about that's related to my being Black and my being a woman in that space, because you had to overlook a whole lot of things to not see me and the leader in that place. And so those have to be directly addressed. But the other piece about white gaze that I just wanted to touch on, Babs, in your question is, we have to acknowledge also, like the black toll, the Black tax, the extra labor that we do as Black women in spaces that are built for white men, built for whiteness, and that there is this extra emotional labor that we bring into those spaces of having to explain things, or being expected to explain things, or having to call attention to things, or to draw the boundary around something that I think, you know, can't be underestimated, because it's never compensated, you know, in the way that it should be. And there's a toll that it takes. There's energy, emotional energy that goes into having to navigate those spaces. And it's another space where I think as Black leaders and as the Black community, we need to be supportive of each other, because we do a whole lot of unpaid labor in these spaces that were not built for us and that don't respect who we are.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, Karen. So we got about like 10 minutes left. I want to lighten this up a little bit because we've shared a lot. So what I do on my day show, I always ask people when we get ready to leave, I always ask them, what are you reading these days? Like, what has your attention in the movies, music wise, book wise? theater-wise? What has your attention? What's your guilty pleasure? Are you watching some ratchet TV? Like, what do you want? Like, like we all have our guilty pleasures, right? So give me some sense of what do you find entertaining? Come clean.
Well, I'll start. I'll start. So I have stacks of just started unread beginning books next to my bed that some way through in terms of reading. But the one that I'm reading right now that I mentioned earlier actually is The Body Is Not an Apology. Highly recommend it. Self-care, self-love. That's a wonderful thing that I'm reading. The thing that I'm binging right now, which you may not even have heard of it, I don't even know how somebody recommended it for me, and I'm watching it on Netflix right now. It's called Georgia and Ginny, or Ginny or Georgia or something. If you haven't seen it, it's entertaining. It's a white mother raising a black daughter.
I know this series,
and
yes.
that should tell you all of what you need to know about it. But so that's what I'm watching right now.
Okay. And what's it, if I had to look at just your Spotify, what you listening to?
My Spotify, I actually have a mix that I made up with dear sister friend Kia Levy, that we call our rest playlist. And it has the most amazing mix of mostly Black women artists, but not exclusively. And so that's what I listen to. I could make it public if other people want to hear it, but it's got some amazing, amazing choices. And it's literally rest, R-E-S-T playlist.
I love it. All right. Anybody else? What's entertaining you? Dory?
I'm like Karen, I got some books on the side of my bed, but Belonging is a book signing that some of us went to by Michelle Miller. And so she's a CBS news correspondent, and she talks about really not having a mother who disowned her, basically, and just kind of what that meant in her life. And so I'm interested in reading that. I'm laughing because Dory probably wants to jump to the phone, because we went to Obama's inauguration and we were at these big receptions. She kept putting out all these famous people, like, a Beyonce or whoever, and I would never know who they were. But as soon as I saw a Real Housewives of Atlanta, I knew who they were. And she was like, girl, I cannot with you. So yeah, that's my Ratchet TV, is Real Housewives of Atlanta. I'm gonna tell on myself, or any of the Real Housewives shows, for a little while, because then I get sick of them. But you gotta have some just down. Oh, and don't let my husband go in here. He'll say my other little Ratchet TV is I'm always watching some kind of like killer mystery, like Insane, or some kind of killer mystery stuff. So or he calls him, my daughter call it depressing TV. How to Lose 1,000 pounds, Hoarders. Yeah, but
you're like my sister. She called me.
Hoarders,
like, oh, did you see 1,000 Ways to Die? I was like, what? It's a whole series of how people die in these really crazy, unconventional ways. I love it and I hate it at the same time.
So I'll go. I do enjoy a little Ratchet TV as well, some downtime, some mindless TV. But I also am reading Belonging because we just got that book, but I'm in a book club. So I enjoy reading, and I also enjoy having discussions so that, I can, bounce ideas and what happened in the book with others. So, whatever the book club decides is usually what I'm reading. But, I try to get some reading and some downtime in. I thoroughly enjoy traveling, so that's always fun for me, and I always try to get it in where I can and as much as I can. Music I like, I love Jasmine Sullivan, Ella May. I love some jazz, some gospel, so a little bit of everything. And I'm always listening to things. Music, I'm a big music person, so I can go from classical to jazz to R&B to hip hop, everything. So I love music. Music does it for me and really relaxes me. And so I think that's it for me for downtime.
Dorina?
I just jump in one day for music. Y'all follow Kayla Cheryl.
I don't watch a lot of TV.
Follow Kayla Cheryl. She's a big artist.
I don't watch a lot of TV, but I did get into Harlem and Blood and Water. Those are two series that I found online. I'm more of a music buff. So anything Afrobeats, gospel, R&B, I pretty much could listen to it all interchangeably. It doesn't even matter. And I sing with a recording choir named Anthony Smith and Fully Committed. So we're actually recording some new music now. So that's something that I'm into as well. So it's really music for me. And when I need to relax, maybe some rain sounds in the back and some music in my ears.
I love that. So as we wrap this up, and say goodbye and thank these brothers of Omega Psi-Phi, of Epsilon, Iota, leave us with each of you some pearls of wisdom, some sense of what you live by, some words that sort of either give you solace or lift you up.
My favorite thing to say is, if it costs your peace, the cost is way too much. So by all means necessary, make sure that you maintain your peace.
Oh, I love that.
I think I already said earlier, I truly believe live life to the fullest and enjoy the journey. Be sure that you stop, smell the flowers. I also feel, and the men know this because I'm always working with them or calling on them to do things. It's important that you give back, that you reach back, that you help others along the way. And when we do that, I think we help our whole community, our families be stronger. So I'm always about that.
Thank you.
Mine is family, faith, and friends. Those will get you through everything. And I always know at the end of the day, when it's my time to go, I want to make sure that Heavenly Father's opening the gates for me. So I just treat everybody the same and fair when I'm dealing with all these high complex issues that I deal with on my job. And I think it's lovely when you have a good moral compass, because I will never lose my law license because people don't call me and invite me to embezzle or invite me to do shenanigans, because they know that, it's not about money, right? It's about making sure that when I get up there, have I done things pleasing to his Father? So I think just faith is so important in my life. That gets me through all the lows and the highs. And I want, hopefully everybody that's on the screen knows that these women that you're seeing, we have been through highs and lows in our lives. I'm a breast cancer survivor. Things are going to go wrong. So when you're in the valley, that's why you need family, faith, and friends to pull you out of the valley, or to at least have some hope that you'll be on the mountain for a while before going back down in the valley.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier the faith that things work together for the good of those who love the Lord, and that's absolutely sustaining. So the quote I'll leave with is a belief that everything will be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, then it's not the end.
All right. This has been my absolute pleasure to hang out with y'all. I can sit back and drink bourbon and smoke cigars with y'all any day of the week. Call me. So here's to strong women. May we know them, may we be them, and may we raise them. Good to see y'all. Peace and blessings. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you again, men of EII. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Before everyone signs off, right? We just want to say thank you to our hosts. Thank you to our panelists. We've been doing this for about 3 years. I think this is since the pandemic, and this is the first time we didn't have any questions in the chat. We had just lots of affirming affirmations, a lot of yeses. You know how y'all do. And people just kind of relating to what you did. So I think this was a home run for us, but this wasn't about us. Although, we get to brag throughout the first district because we had this wonderful program with dynamic women. But we just want to thank you all. We want to thank some of the familiar faces and names that we see on the screen. We just want to remind you, though, because early on someone talked about that mental health piece. And as part of our district conference, which is coming up April 20th through the 22nd, April 20th through the 22nd, we'll be having our next Uplift series. It's on the screen, and it's about an education on stress and depression. And this will be for the first district, part of the first district conference. So please stay tuned and look to join that. But again, we're just so full. And so thank you to our amazing hosts and our amazing panelists. And just thank you, thank you, thank you. Brother Bossless, Brother Chair.
Yeah, I just want to also thank you, these lovely ladies, for being great panelists tonight. I want to thank the audience for participating and joining in. And again, our next Uplift series is April 12th, 6 o'clock, about the mental health issues. And we're going to be doing something on April 22nd in person at the Omni Hotel in New Haven, Connecticut.
And get your tickets to the Royal Affair.
That too.
Also, just want to again reiterate and thank the phenomenal panelists that we had and the moderator. Great job. We appreciate you sharing your story and enriching everybody. Also want to thank the Social Action Committee under the leadership of Brother Giggy Martindale. That committee comes together every week and just hammers out issues and discusses ways that we can impact the community. So thank you to the Social Action Committee. And thank you to everybody for joining us. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
I might even buy Karen Du Bois Walton dinner.
Woo! Yay!
Bye, guys. Thanks, Giggy. Thanks.
Bye. Great job, Adam.
Great job, guys. Thank you for the
Thank you for having
salute.
us.